I've been roaming around my channel, out of ideas. I don't know what kind of videos to make for you guys. You guys don't ever tell me what kind of videos you want. So you know what? I'm just going to ignore all those comments and I'm going to make a video about strategies, the strategies that I'm using. No, but seriously, thanks for the feedback, everyone. This is a glimpse of the strategies that I'm going to be using. I'm going to be going through each individual choice in just a moment. So for the past like 6 or 7 years since NHL 12, I've been running the same strategies with minor changes every year. NHL 19, it's a completely different story. I went in with my strategy against top players and I just got blown up. It's a unique year because I've had to make a lot of changes over the past like week and a half, 2 weeks since the game's been out, just so that I can get you guys the perfect strategies so that you can do what I do. A little background, I've been a top player for the past like 4 years since NHL 15. I was a top 100 versus player, top 10 versus player. I finished #1 in competitive seasons. I've won 50 games in a row before. So it's fair to say that I'm pretty competitive. So after getting walloped early on in NHL 19 by some top players, I tweaked some settings, and now when I'm playing against some other top players, I can see that I'm actually hanging on with them, keeping it close, winning some, losing others, but it's just way better than before. Finally, the last thing is I made another video that goes in tandem with this one, and that is the guide to strategies where I go over each of your choices so you can understand exactly what each setting does, know the choices that are presented to you, and adjust whenever you want. Usually based on how your opponent plays. So check that video out. Now I'm going to explain my strategies this year. Starting with the forecheck. Now the forecheck got nerfed this year, and I don't think it was the intention of EA for that to happen. The AIs are far more passive than last year. They won't do a lot of things for you. Forecheck was one of my specialties over the years, but now I feel like my guys are just running up there and the opponent can just make an easy pass, easy breakout, and then I'm just left with 2 defenders back on defense. So where I was 1-2-2 aggressive all the time, I'm now 1-2-2 passive to focus on the breakout passes. My AIs are going to be sticking to my opponent's AIs whenever he has the puck to try to take the puck away to intercept those passes. If my opponent wants to carry the puck all the way from the defensive zone into my zone, he can do that because I'm going to catch him by the time he gets to the blue line. From here, we're going to move on into the neutral zone, and that's the formation that your defensive players set up when your opponent has the puck. This one can either be 1-4 or 1-3-1. 1-4 is ridiculously hard to get by. Don't be a loser and have all 5 people on defense. That is something that is frowned upon in the community. Always have at least one person pressuring the puck carrier and trying to stop him from making plays to enter your zone. Besides, pressuring him means he could turn the puck over, you can take it from him, and maybe you can get a breakaway out of it. But basically, between these 2 different neutral zone strategies, you're giving your opponent very little space to get into your zone. If you find your opponent getting a lot of breakaways, you want to go with the 1-3-1 strategy. Otherwise, the 1-4 strategy will pretty much create a line of defenders, which will roadblock your opponent. Up next, you have this slider. It says trap, and it says forecheck. I don't want the slider all the way to the left because what that means is as soon as my opponent gets the puck, all of my players will just go straight down and set up in the formation. I want to have it closer towards the middle, but maybe a little bit more on the left side, so that my players are a little bit further up in the neutral zone and can still help me out with the play. The offensive pressure is set to aggressive. It was on defend lead before because there were a lot of breakaways that were given up. Defenders just flying out of position. So now my defenders can try to get in on the plays so we can set something up in the offensive zone. After that, you have defensive pressure. I have it set to contain puck, which is the second one from the left. I feel anything from the middle all the way to the right to high pressure, the AIs are going to be doing a lot of chasing, and you don't want to do that when they don't really do anything anymore. Contain puck and protect the net keeps them between your opponent and the net, which means they're not going to be moving around as much, and hopefully this means that once your opponent beats one of your AIs, you have another person nearby that you can switch to help support. Collapsing is the bread and butter of my defense because because it positions all of my players down low by the goalie to intercept passes, to block shots, and it works very well with the strategy specific to your forwards because they're going to be trying to block shots while standing in front of their goalie. The only reason why you would want to go staggered or tight point is when your opponent's using their defenders a lot to score, but even then collapsing can block those shots and can generate breakaways from those blocked shots. Passive box is the penalty kill version of collapsing. Keeps your players all together, again, for blocking shots, intercepting passes, and whatnot. If you do large box, there's just going to be way too much space, or diamond, there's only going to be one person right in front of the goalie to try to prevent those cross crease passes. Umbrella is all about creativity. You're going to have 3 people pretty much around the goalie, which gives you a lot of options to take shots. Now, I wouldn't recommend this strategy if you're using low overall players because I find they're really far away from the net. Once you get some higher overall guys, it works really well. This slider, I have it set to 0 and it's just dependent on how you play. If you like dumping the puck, set it to 10. But it pretty much lets my AIs know that I'm always going to be carrying the puck into the offensive zone, so they shouldn't try to generate speed going into it themselves. If you have it set to 10 and you try to carry the puck in, it'll likely turn into an offside. Up next is control breakout, and with the control breakout, I want to have my players up as much as I possibly can to go for those long stretch passes right next to the opponent's blue line. Those long passes usually beat a lot of my opponent's players, which generate a lot of odd man rushes for me. If you want some more supporting passes, you can switch your control breakout to something else. For the power play breakout, we just talked about the slider. We want to carry the puck in, so that's what we want to tell our AIs to do. For the quick breakout, this is different from last year. I had leave zone early because that generated a lot of breakaways. This year, if I've leave zone early, my players will leave the zone before I can really get good possession of the puck, and what it will come down to is the opponent having way more people in my zone if he ends up stealing the puck than I do, and then it just becomes easy tic-tac-toe one-timers that often lead to goals. Stay wide will just have one of my players trying to leave the zone and trying to get that breakaway. 3-on-3 offense, we want to keep this as passive because if it's on aggressive, your players are just way too far up and your opponent will likely have players further down compared to you, which means easy breakaways for him, and you don't want to allow that. 3-on-3 offense set to passive will negate that. Now, something about me, I always wanted to go behind the net for my strategies. The thing is, last year and the years before that, overload and crash the net were just so freaking good. So I didn't want to switch that. And now I was playing earlier and found out that it's just not as effective this year. I guess it's just the way that the AIs act, the way that they set up, the way that they position themselves. It seems like you're not able to get those quality one-timers as easily with overload or crash the net. Behind the net is crazy good because your players are always moving around. One person always wants to be behind the net, and if you're the puck carrier behind the net, that means your players will try to set up around the outside, and as soon as you move away, they'll be moving with you so that your one-timers are a lot more dynamic than with overload or crash the net where they're kind of just like sitting really far away on the sides. You can get some really tight one-timers where your players are like hugging the post and all it leads to are empty nets for you, easy goals. Cycling is also easier because when you're out of options, you don't know who to pass to. What you can do is just pass it behind the net, whether it's slow or fast, and usually there's going to be someone waiting to pick it up. So definitely give behind the net a shot this year. You won't regret it, especially if you're having trouble scoring, having trouble setting up, and just finding that a lot of your players are just never open. Carry dump is the same slider as on the power play. We want to have it on carry so our players don't go offside as much. Usually this actually fixed a lot of offside issues in previous years. You have it set to 0. Your players will never really go offside when you're carrying in the puck, but this year they still for some reason find their way offside, but I imagine it's way less than if that slider was a lot further up. Cycle or shoot, I want to have my players always in position to shoot the puck. Maybe this doesn't matter as much unless you're like position locking or the AIs are completely in control of your players. Just from experience, I feel like shoot makes them be in better positions to, well, shoot the puck. This year, you may or may not have noticed, but the stamina bar seems to replenish a lot easier, a lot faster. You won't find your lines in red or yellow for too long, and you might not even use your fourth line all that much. So we set this to 10. This causes our AIs to move around a lot, and that's what we want them to do. We want to do our best to keep taking away options from our opponent, and that's defensively. Offensively, want to keep them moving around so that more chances keep popping up. Blocking is pivotal to my defensive strategy. You don't want the opponent to get pucks on the net. Your AIs will do what they can to block the shot, causing less pucks to go there, which also means less chances to score. With the collapsing setup, everyone's gonna want to do that. So now I have all of my forward lines acting the same. It creates consistency and predictability, which is good for us because we always know how our AIs are gonna set up, but it could be bad if you're playing against an elite player who will know that you're always trying to go behind the net, for instance. Chances are you're not going to be playing a top player, so just let it be consistent. Defensively, we want to hold the line because otherwise our defensemen are going to try to make plays on their own, which may lead to a lot of odd man rushes, breakaways, or just great breakout passes from your opponent. Maybe this year I could see the slider being a little bit more to the right to try to get your defenseman to do something as soon as your opponent makes those breakout passes. The last slider is cycle or shoot. Cycle pretty much has your players closer to the boards when you're trying to pass it around. Shoot has them closer to the slot, which is where we want them to be, because when we pass it to them, we can skate towards the goalie and try to rip it through some screens. And again, these lines are the same throughout my defensive pairings. So those are my strategies this year for NHL 19. They may be changed over time, but for right now, I'm feeling pretty comfortable with them, and I couldn't have said that like a week ago where I was just all over the place. If you guys have any questions, need additional help, or want me to clarify on something, let me know in the comments below, and I would be happy to assist you.